All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Corey Golub, amateur call sign Kilo Uniform 1 Uniform. I'd like to welcome you all to what is the first and hopefully a recurring series of monthly virtual talks about items ham radio related. You may have heard of TED Talks. Well, this evening we embark on a Fred Talk. The presenter this evening is Fred Kemmerer, amateur call sign Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie. His reputation precedes him. He is the president of the Nashua Area Radio Society, NARS, which is one of the most active clubs in New England that I can recall. Tonight's topic is on programs for the new and experienced ham. Both recruitment and retention are vital to the sustainability of our beloved hobby. Fred will speak to activities that can be beneficial to the recently licensed or long-time licensed radio operator. He will draw from his personal experiences and successes. Fred is an ARIS mentor in Telebridge Station and has been the force behind programs such as Ham Radio Bootcamp. He puts the active in radioactive, but fear not, no hazmat placards are necessary today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy an informative evening, and don't forget to participate in the process. Your questions and input are what makes these talks just as successful. And with that, Fred, the floor is yours.
All righty, Corey. Well, thank you, and it's nice to see everybody here. It's great to see so many club folks and a few folks that are friends. So, as Corey said, I've been pretty involved in trying to get new people into amateur radio and also help existing hams develop their skills and put as much as we can excitement into amateur radio, even for some folks that are doing it for a very, very long time. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can engage all kinds of people in amateur radio. I'm going to share tonight a few things that have worked here in Nashua. But I think the real spirit of what I'd like to begin with is the idea that if a club or a ham focuses on mentoring and helping hams get active and get licensed and get on the air, you will never be short for friends or club members. We adopted this philosophy. Our club 6 years ago was on the verge of going out of existence. We had 30 members on roll. If we'd actually reduced our roster to those that were still active, it'd probably been more like 15. We've been long known for field day activities, and my predecessor actually had to cancel field day because he couldn't get enough people to help him to do it. And I'll talk a little bit about how we did this at some point here, but we decided to refocus on mentoring, got really active with bringing new people in the hobby, and tonight as I sit with you 6 years later, we have 430 members, and we're growing 2 to 3 new members without recruiting a week. So a little bit of investment in this area, I think, can go a long way for clubs and groups, and it is tremendously beneficial and important to amateur radio, especially where we are right now. So with that preamble, let me make sure I've got all the right knobs turned here on the conferencing tool, and hopefully you can see my presentation here. Is everybody okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Except it's not full screen yet, is it? So let's see if we can take care of that. That's probably better.
Yep, that's full screen.
Yeah, good. So the picture here on the front, and I'll talk more about this program, is from Ham Bootcamp. We did this at the last Boxborough Ham Exposition. It's not totally locked yet, but it's looking really good for us to do it again in the new Ham Exposition that's coming up in Marlborough in September. And you can see here that we have a room full of about 100 folks who spent basically the better part of a half a day with us just to learn about how to get on the air and how to put stations together. Now, we do a lot of work in 2 areas as a group. We have, and I'm going to talk about all this stuff in detail, but I wanted to use some statistics from our work to set the stage for this. The first is we spend a lot of energy licensing people, and then we do a lot of stuff trying to train folks and get them on the air and help them develop their skills to become great hams and do what they want to do. And we collect a lot of statistics in this process. Now, to just set the stage here, We've licensed or upgraded about 360 people successfully in the last 5 years through teaching license classes. And our latest ham boot camp had just shy of 480 people register for it. So what I'm showing you here in the stats are based on those activities and the data we've collected. So first off, the bad news. We believe that less than 25% of people who successfully earn a technician license will be active on the air after 1 year. Now, I've compared notes with Gordon West and with some of the folks down in Newington at the ARL, and those folks actually believe this number is probably less than 25%, unfortunately. We did a lot of work to create some programs to try to attack this and to try to improve the situation. And we believe with some investment in mentoring, it's pretty easy to change that statistic from less to 25% to well over 60% if the proper mentoring resources and help are available. When we do this ham boot camp program, it's designed to basically be a help people get on the air program. And we originally developed it to get at this problem with the technician licensees not getting on the air. But we also included information that's designed for people who had a new general license as well and wanted to build an HF station. Our last ham boot camp, as I said, had just shy of 480 people. And one of the things that really struck us as an amazing statistic is 60% of those 480 had a general class license or higher. So what that told us is there is a tremendous need for mentoring across all license levels. And in fact, there are a lot of folks out there with pretty high-level licenses that have made a lot of investment in getting an amateur radio license. You can see even 126 extras that are still looking for mentoring opportunities. Okay? And also another stat that we got from boot camp is about 10% of those 480 people didn't even have a license yet. And so mentoring can very much be also effectively directed at hams who are thinking about amateur radio, don't know much about it, wondering if they know how to do it or if it's for them or what it involves. And so focusing again on kind of mentoring the whole spectrum of people is definitely very, very beneficial. And if you only focus on new technicians, you're basically leaving, more folks on the table who want your help than you're helping. And the way we've kind of approached this is we try to approach this problem from the whole cycle of a ham's experience. Everything from getting them interested, getting them licensed, getting them on the air. And then this is the really important part, providing skills development for people who've been in ham radio for a while to try and learn new things, because that's what keeps them excited about amateur radio. That's what keeps them active and involved. And, ham radio has always been about a learning hobby. And so, again, if you can focus on those experienced folks and help bring new things to their world, you can also have a significant impact on people's enjoyment and engagement in the hobby. So I'm going to talk about each part of this kind of life cycle a bit and some of the things that we do. One of the very first things we started to do when we rebuilt our club is teach license classes. And we put a lot of energy, and quite frankly, for our members, this is a huge source of pride in our ability to do this. We teach actually a minimum of 7, sometimes 8 license classes a year. We teach a class for technician, general upgrades, and extra upgrades every spring and every fall. And then we usually inject at least 1 and sometimes 2 additional classes that are aimed at high school age students or younger to basically get a technician license. And we kind of do those a little bit differently just to make licensing a little more accessible to the younger side of the spectrum. In addition to teaching all the material that could be on the exams, we put a lot of demonstrations and hands-on activities. You see one example in the lower right. We take a portable satellite station into our license classes and set it all up with antennas. And most of our tech classes will have made their first satellite contact with me or someone as their control operator before they ever have a technician license. And boy, when you can do that kind of stuff, the students really come out of the class fired up to get on the air and see what they can really do with their licenses. We've been very blessed that a lot of the folks that we've licensed have turned around and become instructors, including some young people. In the bottom center there, you see Abby, AB1BY, who loves to help us teach license classes. We licensed her to extra class on her 13th birthday. She's about to graduate from high school now, and she is very active in our activities and one of our instructors in our licensing process. It's also possible with some focus on this stuff to license very young people. Kenzie, K-E-1-N-Z-Y, is standing there. She's 10 years old, and she's standing there with her extra class ticket. So again, if you're willing to tailor your licensing to younger age levels, it's actually quite easy to get fairly young people into amateur radio, and some of them to pretty high-level licenses. Some things that we found, and I know quite a few folks around teach license classes. When we teach a class, we always do surveys amongst our students to try, and we ask them to be quite critical of the job we do. In the beginning, we got some great feedback that helped us develop the format that I'm going to explain here. And we also constantly get feedback that's kind of helps us fine-tune what we do. The format that we find that works best are short consecutive day classes. So we teach tech in general on a weekend, all day Saturday and all day Sunday, or most of the day Sunday. Extra, we do Friday, Saturday, and part of the day Sunday just because of the extra material. We like to use license guides that focus directly on the questions. One of the things that's tough, especially for a tech, is you've got to know a ton of stuff that you can't actually do till you earn your license. And so that process in particular, for a lot of hams, is a memorization exercise. Now, we can take some of the edge off of that with our demonstrations and some of the activities we do ahead of license classes to try to get people excited. But a book that really focuses on the material and a short explanation that we can supplement with demonstrations and what we do in our classes to help people understand the concepts that they're trying to test to is what we have found is most successful. We always test students on Sunday night, afternoon, and evening right after their class ends while all the material's fresh in their minds. There are other formats out there where people try to teach license classes over multiple weeks and so on. And the problem with doing that is by the time you get your students to the end of the class, they're going to have forgotten a lot of what you taught them in the beginning. So the kind of compressed format tends to make the students successful at a much higher rate. Of course, the hands-on activities and demonstrations are really important. They can be both used to reinforce the concepts you're teaching and get the students excited at the same time. For our general classes, for example, we bring in a full HF station, use a screwdriver antenna on a vehicle out in the parking lot, and most of our generals will have made their first HF contacts, again with us as control operators, before they ever get their license. And this last point is really important. If we're going to be able to mentor and help these folks after they graduate, we have to build a friendly relationship and establish our commitment to mentoring the students. And the best chance for us to do this, since they're going to be with us for 2 solid days, or maybe 3 if it's extra, is to start that process in the class. So there's a lot of informal, hey, what's a good radio to get? What kind of antenna can I put up? How do I deal with safety grounds? How do I deal with lightning? There's all kinds of questions that students will have on their minds. And having your full instructor team in the class, we usually have a half a dozen instructors at least to do one of these for the 2 days, is a tremendous opportunity to build that relationship and start the mentoring process. Now, again, I mentioned, I think we've done 360 plus students at all age ranges and all levels, and our overall success rate, including young people and general and extra classes, is over 92%, which means that you've got a better than 9 chance out of 10 if you sign up for any one of our classes of walking away with your license or your upgrade. I thought maybe it would be fun for you all to see some of the kinds of stuff that we do as demos. Now, unfortunately, I'm not there with you, so this is a little challenging. But I'm going to play some videos. I took these 2 videos and the pictures right out of the satellite portion of our technician class, so our students would see these things.
Fred, before you get to that,
yep.
I can read people sometimes. It looks like Joe, AB1OC, may be typing a question. Joe, were you getting ready to ask a question? Because I know you're a VE, a strong VE person in the state. I didn't know if you had any question before we moved off the VE portion.
No, Corey. I'm working on a Saturday's exam session, so I'm listening.
Okay, very well. I just wanted to. You see how attentive I am to picking up on what people are doing?
Yeah, I'm listening.
All right, no worries. All right, Fred, go ahead, continue.
All right, great. Sorry. And folks, if you do have questions or comments, please jump in as we go. That's going to just make this whole thing better, I think. For our satellite session, as the example here, when we do a real class, even if it's a Zoom version, and we do deliver a lot of these via Zoom these days, I will actually bring the satellite station here onto the Zoom, get folks, and we have cameras on all the equipment and the antennas and stuff. We'll get a contact going, and we'll let the students interact with an amateur radio operator through live equipment. And usually that amateur radio operator will talk about what they're doing at their station or what they like to do or what their setup is and so on. So it really makes the students feel like amateur radio is accessible to them, and it gives them a sense of what they can do. We also focus a lot of energy on the kinds of equipment and stations that hams that are just getting licensed or entering a certain phase of their licensing process can do. So, for example, we'll often take a portable satellite station with a handheld antenna and a couple HTs outside, and we'll demonstrate a satellite contact made that way, because that's the way that a new technician that might be interested in getting involved in amateur radio satellites is probably going to have to try it for the first time. We also do these demos in a way that reinforces and actually demonstrates the stuff that they're learning for their license class. So when we do a satellite, and I'll show you a video of this in a minute, you know, we show how satellite modes up and down link work. We show how Doppler shift factors in. We show how satellite tracking relates to Keplerian elements and all the stuff that they're going to get tested on. And then the last part is really important. We give the students a chance to use the equipment, to try to make contacts, to talk to other hams, to try to really get them excited about using their license. So with that, I'm just going to, for fun, play a couple videos here that are right out of our license class. This first one basically shows how a computer-controlled satellite station works. And you'll see, I think, for those of you who are familiar with this stuff, a lot of the concepts from the technician license exam on the satellite material. So here we go. So here's the tracking computer. And you can see it's pretty much running the whole station. And then here you're going to see a time-lapse version of the antennas following a satellite over a pass. So the students actually get to see and work with the real equipment. This is actually at a local hospital where we teach in-person classes. And here we're showing the Doppler correction aspect. Now, all of the equipment that you see here would actually be in the class if it were a live class and set up, or if we were demonstrating this remotely, we'd have cameras on everything that you saw here while the process was going on so the students could appreciate it. And the other part that's really important is actually getting students on the air. Now, I have a recorded demo to give you all a feel for what this is like, but in a real class, we'd either be sitting down at the actual satellite station talking to another ham, or if we're doing it through Zoom, I would do that by bringing the station here at our QTH onto the class Zoom and letting the students interact with another operator. But at any rate, this is what that experience might be like.
CQ, 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 Alpha, Bravo, 1, Oscar, Charlie, CQ.
Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie from Whiskey 0. Nancy Bravo Charlie, over.
Okay, Whiskey 0, Nancy Bravo Charlie. Nice signal. You're 5 now.
You just heard a spin fade there, which of course is one of the things on the tech license. You can see the tracking programs in play here. You can see the Doppler correction activity going on here. I didn't show it in this demo, but normally I would deal with getting the up and down links aligned in the transponder. And so we use the actual live demonstration of the contact to help the students really appreciate what's going on here and have a real sense of what they're learning about. I thought there might be some folks here who had club members or friends who might be interested in licensing or getting into class. So I thought I'd share a little bit about what's coming up. We're going to be teaching our fall series starting in September. Tech will be the 18th and 19th, general 23rd and 4th. And our extra class will be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You can see some recent activity from licensing. Gordon West, we will often invite him on to our licensing session. He's a big advocate for licensing, and he'll spend 5 or 10 minutes talking with the folks in the class and trying to encourage them to use their licenses and have fun. He'll usually do a little demonstration or something for us. The last one of these we did, Gordon actually spent almost a full 2 days as a sort of a shadow instructor with us, so he's pretty enthusiastic about that. And there's a spot here on our website, n1fd.org, where folks, if they're looking for class help, can sign up. All right. Before I move on to the next phase of this, does anybody have any questions about licensing or all the stuff that's related to it?
Yeah, Fred, it's Joe, AB1OC here. Regarding your classes, I would, I'm running exam sessions, so it's I'm kind of at the end of the stream here when people want to get involved in the hobby. So if I do find somebody who's interested in one of your classes, do you provide them all online? Is it an interactive process they can go through?
Yeah. So COVID forced us to shift a lot of things online, Joe. Right. So
right.
We've been teaching these classes online, and what we have found is that because we were able to shift at the same time to online testing, we're actually now able to follow kind of our process of doing the class and doing the testing immediately afterwards for people outside of our area. Mm-hmm. And so at least for the foreseeable future, we're planning to keep most of our licensed classes online through Zoom.
Okay.
We have a pretty highly interactive experience. One of the things we do when we teach these classes, we go through the material, and then we go through the questions again, and we have each student take a turn answering the question. We call that the lightning round.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
And that's actually very important for a couple of reasons. First of all, it lets the students re-practice the questions. It lets us see if we didn't maybe teach something properly, because if one student's confused, there's a good chance that others are as well. So it tips us off of where we need to go back and do a little more. And the other thing it does is 2 days worth of a class is pretty intense for even an adult, and it's hard to stay engaged. But when after every section in the licensing exam, you're going to have to answer 3 or 4 questions, it's a pretty good motivator to stay in the process.
Yeah, I ask this because I have one person, I'm not far from Rockland, Maine on the coast.
Yep.
And this person is up in Rangeley, up in the northwest side of the state. For some reason, he wants to come down to my exam sessions. Well, I'm essentially the only one offering them in Maine, this year.
Right.
So he wanted to come in April and decided he wasn't prepared. Last week, he contacts me and says he's still not prepared for this Saturday. So I'm thinking maybe I should suggest that he sign up for one of your extra classes because that's what he wants to do. Yep. And, let him see how that feels to him.
I think that would be great. How old is your friend? Is he a young person or
I believe he's about 50 or so. What he's relayed to me is that he does have sort of a learning issue, and that I have a sense that if he could drill himself more than what he's doing now, maybe he would be okay.
Yeah, it makes sure that if he decides to sign up, he lets us know that who he is, and we'll do some extra things with him to ahead of the class to make sure that, you know, he comes in with the best possible chance of success.
All right.
The reason I asked about age is when we have, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We raise a lot of money for things like this. And if we have a teacher or anyone who's high school age or younger, we make everything about this process, the book, the class fees, and everything else free for those people. We kind of call it a scholarship, for lack of a better term, to try to encourage young people and teachers to go through the process with us. Other hams, we basically ask for a donation that's about enough to basically pay for the class and the stuff that goes into it. What we typically will do is we'll hold a raffle at the end, and we'll give away a book or a radio or a kit or something that pretty much equals out to what people paid to take our class. And the reason we do that is we found that folks, if they have a little bit of skin in the game, will come much better prepared than if they don't. So, but licensing can be a great activity, and you know, it's a fun thing to do. There's nothing that's more rewarding to see a new ham that really wants a license get one. I know if you do VE sessions, you know probably well what I'm talking about.
I do.
And you know, when you can spend a couple days with them and get them to the point where you know that they probably came in not quite ready to pass, and then they find that they got their license, boy, the level of excitement and sort of joy you get out of doing that is just hard to match anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've had, you know, the gamut of people come in to take these examinations. They'll walk in the door to say they want to take the technician, and they walk out with an extra at the end of the session. You know, it doesn't happen often, but it's happened to me several times over the last few years. And I don't expect it. You know, and I've had people with disabilities come in. I work with them.
Yep.
And I've had people with you know, life issues where they can only come on a certain day, and I make it available that you know, we'll you know, take care of you. And we had a situation this past April where I had a father and son that could only make it on a Sunday. So I opened up a Sunday session, and that worked out rather well. And I recall that, you know, you mentioned that Sunday afternoons were about the best time of the day in the week
they really
run
are.
a session. Yeah.
What that's all about is people, a lot of folks that are younger and are either working or going to school, and it really helps them a lot to have the whole day Saturday and most of the day Sunday to study before they take their test. When we do in-persons, we do walk-in exams, and you know, if we have a class of 20 people, sometimes we'll test 50 people. We'll have 30 walk-ins on a Sunday night.
Well, that happened to me last June when we were able to open up to offer an exam session after being shut down March through June. And I had 40 people come in the door. Well, I had to have appointments for everybody, and you know, we managed to take care of everybody. And still, you know, there's so many issues out there that I'm still taking emails or phone calls to register rather than have walk-ins. How are you handling that?
We just take the walk-ins. We have a lot of VEs that will sign up. You know, we sort of have a baseline because we know that about half at least, or maybe a little more than that, will be our students, and those people do register.
Okay.
But then, you know, the walk-ins, you know, we'll usually set up 2 or 3 almost independent license activities with their own free VEs to score exams and stuff, so we can scale up and get people through the process without much waiting.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, we've handled sessions close to 50 people that way without much trouble at all. We usually don't get more than that.
You have the population too, where you know I have a lot less over here.
Yeah, that makes it a lot harder. So let me talk a little bit about what happens next. Now, we spend a lot of time and energy on surveys of people who participate in our programs. And the reason we do that, I think, is pretty obvious, that we're trying to learn what people need, and we're also trying to learn where we're effective and where we're not, so that we constantly improve. And every time we do a license class or a boot camp or some other activity, we all sit around at the end while the whole experience is fresh in our mind, and we review all the survey data, and we see what we can learn from it. Now, one of the things that we learn pretty quickly on with students is that getting a license is one thing, but without help, most people will have a very difficult time actually using that license. And so we created a program called Ham Bootcamp specifically to deal with this problem. The first ones were strictly pilots that we ran. So we do like a tech and a general class, and we invite all the people in our class over to myQTH, and we do a Ham Bootcamp. And I'll show you a little bit what we do in those sessions. But one of the things that we did at the end of each of those is we would, have the survey, students complete an anonymous survey to say, how did this work? Do you feel like you can get on the air now? What did we miss? What are you still confused about? And so on. And so we kind of did 2 or 3 of those pilots to learn how to do this. So what is Ham Bootcamp, or what has it become? Well, first and foremost, it's about building a station and getting on the air. We really focus on that. We also want people to understand some of the more, the less common things, the more interesting things, sometimes we like to say, that they can do with their license that they might not have thought about. And also for the people who participate in this thing, and again, it's about 10% who don't have a license yet, it gives them a sense of what they can do if they decide to get one. The people that teach this are all very experienced hams, it's all about hands-on and interaction. It's fun. We always have a lot of laughs, and we usually have, because we do a lot of this stuff on the air, we always have some amazing experiences. I remember one boot camp we had over lunchtime. I was doing a sideband demonstration. I got a gentleman on from Gozo Island in the Mediterranean, and he told the whole group all about what it was like to live there and do amateur radio. You talk about a group of people coming out of an activity inspired. When something like that can happen, it really makes a difference. And because of COVID and also the desire to offer this to more people, we do now this both online and in person. And we're finding that we can actually do the online thing fairly effectively for pretty large groups. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're doing that in a minute. The pictures you see here are one of the in-person sessions on the right. Jamie, AC1DC, is talking about how to put a basic HF station together. On the left, we have a round table, and we've given everybody an HT at as low power as we can on a 70-centimeter channel, and they're about to practice making QSOs with each other under our supervision and checking into a simulated net. And why do we do that? We know that a lot of these folks have mic fright, and they don't have the confidence that they know how to operate on the air properly. And so what that exercise is about at boot camp is specifically removing that fear. Okay, so I know this is a little small, but this is a view of what is in our current boot camp programs. There are 2 tracks. These programs last a day. They go usually from 10 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and they're pretty well packed in. The first track is for people who don't have a license yet and people who want to do the sort of things you might do with a technician license. We always start out about how to put a station together and pick an antenna. We do a live demonstration or an interactive one if a group is in person, where we make a contact simplex and join a repeater net and go through the net. We do explain how to do radio programming. We help people get started with Echolink. We talk about amateur radio satellites. And Abby, our youth instructor, is a big purveyor of our fox hunts, and she is an expert on fox hunting. And she basically teaches the section to get people involved in doing that. For the general track, Jamie usually goes through how to put an HF station together for sideband CW and digital, including involving a computer, power supplies, and all the stuff you need to do. I cover a section on basic antennas, dipoles, vertical dipoles, inverted V's, and so on, the kinds of antennas, off-center fed dipoles that new hams put up. And we go through all the details of how to do that, where to get the hardware, and how to get the rope in the tree, and all that. We'll get on an HF radio and do a live demo. We'll talk about logging. We'll explain how to do FT8 digital, which of course is very popular. We cover a section on how to go about learning CW. And then we deal with, maybe a little more advanced topic, but one that I think a lot of general class and higher hams want to do, which is how to DX and how to QSL. And then we follow this up with another session on a different evening where we go either to our local HRO and walk around the radio store and look at gear and answer questions on what to get and what works in what situations. Or when we're online, we basically do an online shopping trip. We go to DX Engineering, we go to HRO, we go to some of the antenna vendors. We go to ICOM, Yaesu, and Flex, and Elecraft, and we look at their gear. And again, we try to answer questions and help people, get going. Our next online boot camp is scheduled for November 13th. It's free. Everybody can register at the URL down there. And I think there's probably a good chance there's going to be a live, probably slightly scaled down version, a half-day version of this at Ham Exposition in Marlboro this year. Okay. So I thought it might be fun for you all to see an example of what a Ham boot camp session is like. So I chose one from the general and higher class, or the HF portion as we like to think of it. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be teaching the boot campers about what split is and how to do it. So here's an example of boot camp. And hopefully I'm going to get the right place in this video.
The notion of operating split. So there's a term in amateur radio for HF called a pileup. And you'll tend to get one of those if you are something that is very desirable to contact. You might be in a rare place. You might just have a really loud signal, and on a day when the bands are not very open, so you're the only thing a lot of stations can hear. You put up really good antennas, maybe you get a small amplifier. It's pretty easy to be one of those. Maybe you are part of a special event station. For those on the East Coast here, we are part of the 13 Colonies special event. We're the New Hampshire stations here. And there we get terrific pileups. So what do you do when you have 10, 20, 50 stations calling you at once on sideband and you can't hear anybody? And more importantly, when you try to work somebody because you heard a call sign, you can't stop those other stations from calling? Well, you do what's called split. You transmit on one frequency and listen on another frequency or a range of frequencies. And you'll hear this, a DX that's popular, and the one I'm going to do was a DXpedition to an island that doesn't get activated very much in the Caribbean. I think it was a VP5 or a VP8, something like that. And you'll hear him drop his call sign in, and he'll say, up 5. What that means when you hear that is he's transmitting on the frequency we heard him, but he wants you to transmit up 5 kilohertz from where he is. And
so just to go through this, because I'm sure most of you know how to work split.
We'll
typically bring a real radio on the line with a camera,
so I can actually
and we'll show how to actually do it with a rig.
My split button is right here. See, it says, if you can read that, I know it's kind of small, it says split. And when I do that, you notice it's going to light up the second BF.
And then we'll use either a live version, we can find it, or a recorded demo to show how this actually sounds and works on the air. So here's that.
Echo Lima Yankee. Whiskey 7 Charlie Charlie Yankee. Whiskey 7 Charlie Charlie Yankee 59. Roger, 59 Washington 73. Mike Charlie. Kilo Golf 6 Mike Charlie. Kilo Golf 6 Mike Charlie.
So I think you get the idea. By the time our students, our boot campers go through this, they really and we get tons of questions about, how do I do this and what do I do in this situation? Because, a lot of the folks may have tried split and may have had trouble with it or whatever. They're looking to kind of get the whole thing figured out. But by the time we get through all of this, most of our boot campers go away with some pretty good confidence that, they can figure out how to do this. They can do it. So that's kind of what we try to do with that program. So before I move on to the next part, which is kind of ongoing learning, does anybody have any questions about boot camp or, basically mentoring to get people on the air? I'm going to talk about some other things like, helping hams get these kinds of experiences without doing a full-blown boot camp. But hopefully you get kind of the idea of what this part of our programs are about. Oh. All right, let me keep moving. The third thing that we do is sort of ongoing training. And here you have to cover a lot of ground because by the time you've gone through the first 2 steps, your group or your club will probably have a lot of fairly new people. Our club right now has 60% of the people of our club, about 430 members, are licensed less than 3 years. So this ongoing training for them is really, really important to keep them kind of moving up the learning curve. But we also have a lot of members who have been hams a long time, and they're looking to learn how to do new things. Maybe they've never done FTA digital, or maybe they're interested in trying contesting, or maybe they're putting their first tower up. So we developed a third kind of program that we call Tech Night. Now, we do one of these every month. We have a second meeting that's specifically devoted to technical training. And the way we created this program is we got together and brainstormed up and talked to people and created a tremendous list of things that people wanted to learn about. And then, like we do everything else, we sent a survey out to all our members and let our members prioritize which ones we did. And we did them in the order that the members prioritized them. These things are typically very hands-on. A lot of equipment gets brought in or shown on cameras in the case we do these on Zoom. In the lower right, one of our members built what he calls a Lego Yagi, a 2-meter Yagi that you can put elements together. And then he does a thing with a light bulb and a dipole where you can actually see the pattern of the antenna, the Yagi form, as a way to explain how a directional antenna works. So that would be the kind of stuff that we would do at Tech Night. We've been doing this now for quite a while. We do it almost every month. We videotape all of these and put the videotaped versions after we edit them and clean them up, and the PowerPoint's online. At this stage, we have about 125 hours worth of training material on almost anything that you can think of in amateur radio. You know, everything from building your first station and getting on the air to advanced stuff like how do you build a 2-meter EME station, or a satellite station, or operate your station remotely. We even did one clinic where one of our members brought in a whole bunch of surface mount soldering equipment, and anybody who wanted to could sit down with a hot air gun, a bunch of surface mount resistors and capacitors, and a microscope, and actually learn how to do surface mount soldering. So, again, when you do this level of training, there's almost no limit to the topics you can cover. All you really need is a member or a friend who's an expert on some topic that people are interested in, and you're ready to go. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a sense of what this is. This is one of our popular tech nights where we talked about, all the aspects of putting up a tower. And I'm just going to play a little bit now. I'll just preface this. I did this one, and I had torn my rotator cuff and had surgery just before I did this tech night. So if it looks like I'm a little mechanically impaired here, that's what's going on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a part of a tech night where we showed how to properly use a climbing harness. So here we go. And, well, come on. That's before I hurt my shoulder, but I'm going to go ahead and do it so you can see how this works. So on the back here is where your safety harness goes. I'll explain this when I get it on. Yep. So let's see if I can get this on without hurting myself. How much does that weigh? Oh, I don't know, 20, 30 pounds. You all are welcome to come up and try this on later if you'd like. So, cross the chest. Helping me out here so I don't end up back in the hospital. He's going to help me here because this would really hurt if I did it by myself. This is probably why I'm not allowed to climb a tower again yet. Where's the other leg strap? Here, I'll let you do that, Dita. Okay. Again, this is something you want the best one you can afford to make sure it fits. If you gain or lose weight, it doesn't fit right anymore, get another one. So you want to hand those over my back. So this is where I would be when I'm ready to climb. You can see I've got this on. It's across my chest. Now I normally would set these a little tighter. It's holding my left. So I think you get the idea. But again, you know, as hams, all of us have expertise that's valuable to other hams. And you know, this kind of training and mentoring is something that's one of the things that's always made amateur radio the wonderful hobby and service that it is. So, you know, putting together, figuring out what people that you're working with, that you're interacting with, really want to learn about, and putting together some of these kinds of programs can be a tremendous way to help keep people excited about amateur radio, especially your more experienced hams, get them to try and do new things, and kind of just bring that overall activity level up. as high as you can. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these ideas with young people and a few other things. Before I do that, I know boot camps was of some level of interest, so does anybody have any questions about boot camp? No? Okay, I'm going to keep on going. So we've had a lot of success in focusing with young people particularly, and there are a couple activities that we found that are really great ways to get a group of young people together. Now, Abby, our 13-year-old extra there, is really big. This is kind of her thing in our club. And she actually got involved in amateur radio through something called Arl Kids Day. Now, the league has some great activities here. And, you know, you can open your station up for a day and sponsor one of these activities, and you'll find that you can easily attract a group of young people. Maybe you have friends or family with folks that are, you know, high school age or younger that are looking to see what this amateur radio thing is about. Encourage the kids to bring their parents. The parents will actually have a better time at these events sometimes than the kids will. You know, you can wrap some other things around these. When we do one of these, we'll typically have a fox hunt, a satellite activity. Sometimes we've built antennas or done Morse code. The Aero Rookie Roundup, I'm proud to say that the N1FD youth team, which you see in the upper part, or some of the folks in the upper part, pretty much dominated the ARL Rookie Roundup for every time that they ever operated it, including the CW one. Although the CW one is kind of fun because what happens is you'll see 3 or 4 kids sit around and they'll all listen and they'll collectively figure out what they heard. And so, you know, it's kind of a team effort because most of them don't know CW very well. But surprisingly, we were pretty successful in getting the young folks, especially there's one person in the group that has a little bit of a handle on the code, to even do that one. So these things can be great fun, and they create some amazing experiences for everybody involved. Another thing you can do is get involved in local schools. Now, you know, Corey mentioned that I'm involved in ARIS. ARIS, for those who don't know, is a program. ARIS stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. And one of the centerpieces of that program is a process where schools can work with a local radio club to have an amateur radio contact with an astronaut on the space station and do a Q&A. And there is nothing that I have seen that will fire a group of school students up to get amateur radio license more than doing one of these. It's also a tremendous opportunity for a club to build a relationship with a school that can lead to all kinds of ongoing activities with young people. It is a pretty big project. You don't necessarily have to build a ground station. Many schools do what are called telebridge contacts, where they use a ground station like the one I have here through a telephone or a Zoom connection to actually do the contact. But then they do all of the amateur radio activities with a local club to see what amateur radio is about and learn. As I said, these things are an amazing experience. I have a short video from one that we did here. Now, probably the most recent one, some of you may be familiar. I did one as the mentor for a school, RSU 21, in Kennebunk, Maine. A little while back, that was an elementary school that was STEM-oriented. They did a telebridge. Basically, they used a station. That one was actually a station in Italy that was their ground station. And my role, along with the local amateur radio club, was to introduce all the kids to amateur radio as part of the learning process that led up to making their contact. I have a video here of a direct one that our club did with a middle school over here in Hudson, New Hampshire, and I thought I'd play this for you so you can get a sense of what this was like. And note the level of exposure, not only to the kids, but to the parents and the faculty in the school that amateur radio gets through one of these.
It's a very exciting and unique opportunity for us. Okay? This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the students of Hudson Memorial School to watch us make contact with astronauts from NASA in outer space on the International Space Station.
All right. As Mr. Bowen said, this is a truly unique event that you guys get to be a part of. And he did the welcomes to all the people that are here in the room. but I'm going to welcome all the elementary students that are probably watching us on live feed right now. The logo over to the far right is the Nashua Area Radio Society. They have been a huge part of this. Without them in this part, there would be no contact for you. The amount of hours, we probably can't even put together the amount of hours that the folks of this club put in to make sure that everything's happening. Also, they want to encourage and help people to become licensed and active in the amateur radio service. And you will see that over the course of the year, there are 2 students that are asking questions.
Ryan is a general. I think he was probably 11 or so. Kinsey had her extra. By that point, she was 10.
Here that now have their amateur radio license because of them.
1 minute to contact. The antennas are beginning to position. If you look at the video on the upper right of the screen, you can see the antennas tracking in on the ISS.
You can hear a pin drop.
November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is November 1 Foxtrot Delta. Over. Hi, hello Serena. This is November 1 Foxtrot Delta. We copy you fine. We've all been working very hard for about a year to prepare for this day, and we very much appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions. Are you ready for the students' questions? Over.
I am ready. Over. This is Ryan, KC1 KJS. What does it feel like when exiting the atmosphere? Over.
It's amazing. When our rocket lit and we knew those engines were going, we knew we were going somewhere really, really quickly, and it was the most amazing feeling to feel that thrust take that rocket off and last for about 8.5 minutes before we reached orbit. Over.
This is Kenzie, KE1NZY. How long have you been a licensed amateur radio operator, and do you use your license for any other communications besides ARIS? Over.
I've been a licensed radio operator now for probably only about 1.5 years in preparation for this space flight, and I've only had the chance to use it up here in the space station, and I've really enjoyed doing that, including just making random contacts across the United States and other countries. So I'm hoping to get to continue that after the mission. Over.
So I think you kind of get the idea. Obviously, doing something like this creates a tremendous relationship that you can build upon with a school. And you know, when the day after one of these contacts, you will find that you will never have a better environment for licensing kids, for doing amateur radio activities with them, for maybe starting a school radio club or whatever, than you have that day afterwards. Because I think you could probably tell the level of excitement and involvement in amateur radio this creates in the school is just almost unbelievable. I am an ARIS mentor as well, and if anybody's interested in working with a school to develop one of these contacts, you know, just drop me an email. I'll give you my email at the end, and I'll be more than glad to help you figure out how to go about doing this. It's not hard to do. Some other things that you can do. It's always great to invite less experienced hams into your station for an operating activity. Now, I'm involved in quite a bit of contesting. Right these days, I'm more of a VHF and above contester, but I've also been pretty involved in HF contesting in days past. And one of the things that we did with our club is I opened my station during a major DX contest. It was CQ Worldwide DX, with the goal of having all the new folks in the club that wanted to operate on HF come and use the station with the goal of having the club earn a DXCC in a weekend. And they did it, and it had a tremendous amount of fun trying out contesting. Now, we were all, my wife and I and a number of the more experienced club members were there to kind of coach these folks. You know, in some situations, we logged for them where they were a little more timid. You know, we would operate and they would log. There's a lot of different ways that you all can do this sort of thing. If some of you are probably involved maybe in 13 colonies as well, one of the things I love to do is, as a 13 colonies operator, is wait till it gets near the end of the event and the pile-up dials down, and then bring a new ham into my station and operate with them for a couple hours, let them run as K2K. with some coaching from me and see what it's like to run that special event experience. You know, another way you can do this, if you're not obviously directly involved in an event, is you can basically help a young person or a new ham or even an experienced ham get their, you know, their sweep in something like 13 colonies or have fun with a special event. And always, it's a great opportunity to give a tour of your station, answer questions about how it's built, how to put antennas up, and all of that sort of stuff. Something that, and you don't need a huge group or a club to do. Individual hams can easily do this. I remember my first experience as an Eagle Scout with a local ham who was a mentor, and he took me to his station for an evening and got me on the air and talked to me about amateur radio. And man, when I left that evening, I wanted an amateur radio license so bad I could taste it. I really did. So these are very, very, very effective ways to get any ham excited about doing something new. I would probably be remiss if I didn't mention with Field Day coming up this weekend that Field Day is a tremendous opportunity for learning. We treat our Field Days at NARS as learning experiences first and contests and competitions second. That hasn't hurt us at all. We've been either top or near the top of every category we've entered in the last 5 years. And we've developed some great youth operators, as well as introduced a lot of more experienced hams to new things like digital and operating on 2 meters and above, weak signal satellites, and all kinds of things. And the other good thing about this is a place where you can show your commitment to mentoring to the general public, to parents, and folks, passersby who might be interested. And I'll share with you what this can look like and how positive it can be. We were actually had a little bit of coverage for one of our Field Days, and let's hear what the press had to say about what they saw at Field Day.
While practicing for a possible emergency.
Next at 6, how these amateur radio operators are getting ready for any disaster.
Amateur radio operators across the country and Canada set up radio equipment this weekend for an event called Field Day.
And while it is a contest, it's also a chance for operators to practice their emergency response capabilities so they're ready to provide communications if a disaster strikes. Dozens took part at Hudson Memorial School, working completely off the grid, simulating a real emergency.
What we've taught some of the kids in the school here about is how you actually track and talk and do communications through a satellite in space.
One of the main things we like to do is really further the education of STEM curriculum in local schools. This has been a partnership with the Hudson Middle School.
Tango, Radio Tango. Trained some as young as 12 years old. That is incredible. Good for them.
And they actually started setting up yesterday. They went 24 hours, so in that kind of unsettled weather that we had, they were still going. So
wow.
Pretty impressive.
Good for them.
All right. So I think you can see that, you know, if you focus on mentoring and helping new people and even experienced hams learn new things into the hobby, the level of interest, energy, and engagement with your club or with you individual in amateur radio can be off the charts. You know, if I were to, people often ask me, you know, how did you rebuild your club? What's the one thing that made more difference than anything else? And the answer is very simple. We focused on new ham development and mentoring. And literally people came from every direction. I have members in our club now in Hawaii, in Alaska. I think I've got a member in almost every state in the U.S. at this point. We've even got a member in England. So it's just unbelievable how a demonstrated commitment and a few good programs in this area will make your club grow and get a level of energy and activity going that you just cannot believe. And, you know, I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, my God, I could never do all this stuff. Pick one thing that you think you truly enjoy doing and start there. And the key thing is, as long as you demonstrate your commitment to mentoring and helping people, you will find yourself with a whole cadre of people who you've helped, and those folks are going to be very motivated to help the next round. That's kind of how we kind of climbed this curve. We started out doing our licensing activity and kind of got that working. About a year after we did that, we had our 100th member. And of course, when you have 100 members and all of them are new hams, now you've really got some tremendous energy around mentoring and so on, and people who are excited about doing new things, and you can grow from there. So, Corey, I have one more video here that takes about 5 minutes that kind of sums that all up. I want to be respectful of time. Do you want me to go ahead and share that, or are we time limited?
No, go ahead, share your video, and then we'll open it up to questions after that. We're doing good on time.
Now, let me just see if I can get my player to cooperate here. Sometimes it doesn't do that, but I'm going to get it. I'm going to get us there. Just give me a second here. If not, I will go literally to the videotape. All right, I'm going to go to Plan B because I really do want to. Oh, there we had it for a second. Let me try that again. Sometimes PowerPoint gets a little cranky with all this video content, I think. Try it one more time. All right, I'm going to go play this video someplace where I know it's going to play. Just give me a second. All right.
And while you're doing that, I did just post in the link for a survey. Please wait till the talk is done. So whether you are here live or you're watching this on YouTube, we are going to put this on the main ARRL YouTube page. So whether you're watching it in real time or after the fact, please fill out the survey. It will help us understand how well this talk went and if you want to see more like this.
All right, so this is a kind of a highlights video we did at the end of 2016. Most of these programs, with the exception of Ham Bootcamp, were all pretty much in play and brand new. And you'll see there's a few additional things here that you might find interesting. So at any rate, I think this will be fun. Let's have a look at how all these things were like to participate in.
November 1, Foxtrot Delta.
Kilo Echo 0, Charlie, Romeo, number.
With the Kilo Echo 0 station, come again.
Kilo Echo 0, Foxtrot Mexico X-ray,
QSL, Kilo Echo 0, Foxtrot, Mexico X-ray. This is November 1, Foxtrot Delta. My name is Abby, Alpha Bravo Bravo Yankee. 1-6 November Hotel. Can I get your name?
So hopefully there's something in here that might be fun or inspiring or something that you all could try. And you know, the key thing is to pick something out that you feel like would be meaningful and just give it a try. You don't have to get these things perfect. If you're listening to your participants and trying to trying to get their feedback and so on. You know, we have a saying here when we do all our program development, we call it failing fast. As soon as we have an idea for something that might work, we don't do a lot of debating or optimizing. We just go out there and we try it. And usually with a small group, we pay a lot of attention to how people thought we did. We learn from our mistakes, and you do that 2 or 3 times, and you keep evolving, and you're going to have some really, really good programs. So does anybody have any final questions or thoughts on any of this? Or maybe
we do have a few questions here.
That would be good. Yeah, go ahead.
Joe, I think you sent me a message saying you had 2. You had 2 questions?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Great, okay. I'm just kind of curious, how many communities does the Nashua Area Radio Society serve, and what sort of marketing or recruitment efforts do you perform in those communities for people who may not even take an exam or a class, or know there is classes or exams for people who might not even know what amateur radio is at all?
Yeah, how many communities do we serve is kind of an interesting one. So, and again, I'll kind of make the point of mentoring. I have members in Maine that come to meetings. I have a member in New Jersey who's coming all the way up here. He's so excited. He's in Newham to do field day with us this weekend. So, you know, it's hard for me to answer that question, but what I will say is that if you create a strong focus on mentoring, you will be just amazed at your ability to draw people into your group. I mean, this has happened at a level, you know, for example, the last boot camp we did, we had almost 480 people register across the whole United States. So I can't stress enough how powerful, I guess is the right word to say, a really solid commitment that a club makes to mentoring will change the whole dynamic of the people that come to you, because there are a ton of people out there that are looking for mentors. There really, really are. And, you know, if you could get your group really geared and focused on that as a top priority, you know, the range of people that you can serve is almost unlimited. You know, if I look at just geography, Nashua, you know, we've got we're kind of the southeastern part of the state here. Manchester is probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 miles away from Nashua. Several spots, big cities in Massachusetts are probably about the same distance to the south. But honestly, you know, our ability to track members, like I said, I think I have a member in almost every state in the United States right now. And what do we do for recruiting? We don't actively recruit at all. All we do is we put our programs out there. Now, we do have a very well-developed website that's very modern. All of our members can write content for that website, and there's never 2 days, or usually not even 4 hours in a given day, when the website looks the same, because people are constantly generating new content. That website is linked into Facebook and Twitter. Our club Facebook page has over 1,000 followers at this point. And those are probably our main mechanisms for communicating our programs and so on. We just opened up Bootcamp for that November session, the registration, and the first day we opened it, we had 10 people register. We don't even know how they found out about it. I guess folks were just watching the page for the registration to come up. So again, yeah, and you know, some things we do when we teach a license class, if someone graduates as part of what they spend to get a license with us, we offer them a free year in our club's membership. That gives them access to all that Tech Night training and boot camp training is all recorded on there, so they have instant access to some great resources that help them learn. We have a forums, our most popular of which is our mentoring forum, where if a person that's in the club goes there and asks a question, before the end of the day, 2 or 3 of our members will jump in there and try and help. And so I guess you could say that, you know, maybe that's our recruitment mechanism, that we just encourage people who do a program with us to get involved with us so we can continue to try to help them.
Joe, we'll come back to your second question. Jeff KA1DVE has to ask a question or make a comment before he leaves. So Jeff, go ahead, and then Joe will come back to you.
Okay, there we go. I was trying to unmute. Hey, Fred, I just wanted to say I appreciate the program, and it kind of reinforces a lot of things we're doing here in Ellsworth. And on a personal note, I recognize your call, and now I know why, because I've worked you on satellite a few times, and
there you go.
And I've worked you on 13 colonies also. But good presentation, and we're going to try to work more towards it up here with the group. And sorry I got to run, but I start my days early. I work at a hospital, so I got to bolt out of here. But 73, and enjoy seeing all you guys, and hopefully I can keep making them month to month.
Thank you much, and we'll look forward to getting you in the K2 log again next week. Any other questions? Do you all have other programs that maybe you're doing that you think have been pretty successful or effective along some of these lines? Anybody have anything there they'd like to share? It's really not all that hard to get started. It really is. You just have to decide what you enjoy doing and go for it.
How much do the classes cost?
It varies. I think they're in the range of $30 to $40, something like that. Now, and then the student will usually walk away with like an ARRL handbook and a free membership in the class. When we do in person, we'll supply coffee and donuts for the weekend. They're designed to break even. The reason that we don't make any money, there's no income that's generated. By the time we're done, we usually lose a little bit of money because we always offer scholarships. And we make all that stuff free for the students who are teachers or you know, in the high school range or younger. But the reason we charge is that we know that if people have a little bit of skin in the game, they're going to come much better prepared. You know, we'll have folks that won't sign up for an extra class till 3 days before, till they feel like they've done enough studying that they have a shot at passing it. And honestly, that's exactly what we want.
You were asking for suggestions. One thing I do in my classes, I do it over a longer period of time, but I get the students an alias call sign, which is, for y'all, it would be K1 and then their 3 initials, and have them say that. I give them the phonetic alphabet and have them, when they say their name, say their call sign. That way they get used to hearing the phonetic alphabet.
Yep, that's
that
a great exercise.
Gets the mic right away.
That's a great exercise. You know, if you ever get a chance to be in a school with like middle school kids or something, try that there. The kids will have absolutely a ball with that. And you know, it's a great way to cement, you know, an important part of being able to operate on the air. So that's very creative stuff. And any other questions? By the way, keep up the good work on teaching classes. It's really, really valuable that you're doing that.
I've been doing it for 15 years.
Great. Super. Keep it up. Other questions or comments or stories of things that have worked?
Fred, Seth here from AARA up here in the northern part of Maine. Thanks very much first for a great session. I've learned a lot of great tips. We've been doing some classes, and we've had some moderate success with that. We actually provide them free of charge, and that's worked fairly well to a point, but we've only focused on tech, so I think expanding out to that extra and general class to give folks with a higher level of interest would be great. A big thing we struggle with, though, is a very aged population. I think the average age up here is like pushing 60 if we look at the population of the county. How would you suggest getting more involved with like the middle schools, the high schools, to get that younger group that can grow into adults and grow into the hobby with us?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, obviously we talked about one, which is work with a school to support an ARIS contact. Almost everybody will know a teacher or a parent who's active in you know, what's going on in the school. Those are great places to start. A lot of schools have pie nights or kind of like mini science fair activities that are STEM oriented. Volunteer to put a display up there. You know, make a little science fair exhibit around amateur radio. If you can, you know, if you can bring in a fox and hide it in the gym and let the kids walk around and find it. If at schools that have internet access, we can run the station remotely here. We bring in a computer and we actually put the kids on the air. Those are great ways to begin building a relationship. Some schools have STEM clubs, and they might, or career days where they might want to bring, you know, somebody, maybe you've got a person who started out in amateur radio and developed a career in a technical area or engineering or something. Go volunteer and go do a STEM learning activity or career day at a school. The key thing with getting started is to build, again, demonstrate that you have that serious commitment to mentoring, that you really want to get it right. Listen to the teachers, always get their tips on, you know, what did you do well, what could you have done differently in presenting to the kids. Learn a little bit about how to be a teacher from professionals, and then just keep working. And eventually, you know, I'll just give you a story. We've done enough work in one middle school where at the beginning of this last school year, the principal at a local middle school called me up and said, would you teach an amateur radio elective to my kids? I think we have a lot of kids here that want that. And it actually turned into, we did a 2-hour course on, you know, basic wireless communications, and then, you know, some of the stuff around HF and long distance. And it was so popular that they said, can you do another one? So we did a second one on digital and satellite. So by the time we were done, we cycled about 200 of the kids in that middle school in grades 6, 7th, and 8th through 4 hours of amateur radio courses. So again, the trick is start small, find something you can do, build a relationship, demonstrate that you're committed, and just keep building on that. If you have the energy and the resources and you want to go for an ARIS contact. It'll accelerate all of that, you know, into something that'll probably take no more than a year to do. But, you know, it's really, a lot of schools are looking for practical, hands-on oriented education that ties into math and science and the kinds of stuff they're trying to teach and motivate the kids to learn. And so amateur radio can provide that link to real-world stuff that the kids enjoy doing so they can see why STEM learning is so important.
Sounds good. Thanks
Fred,
very much.
I know you've got a 9 o'clock commitment, and Joe, did we round back to your second question? I think you said you had 2.
I do, yeah. Fred, word on the street is you're running for ARL New England Division Director. What plans or new ideas do you plan to bring to the table for amateur radio communities in New England?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. So first and foremost, I'm very much looking for the opportunity in that role to work with clubs and groups in New England to create energy, excitement, and real progress around some of the kinds of stuff we talked about here. I have not interacted with any club or any group anywhere that doesn't have at least 1 or 2 people who are really interested in working on and developing programs like this. And I think, you know, we've been very successful in engaging both local folks here and the resources at the ARL to help us promote these things. You know, for example, Ham Bootcamp featured an article in QST and ended actually up with the cover plaque. That was invited by the ARRL as a way to promote some of the work. So a part of what I'm hoping to do is to work with all the clubs in the region to try to basically make New England a showcase for engaging new hams and growing clubs and that sort of thing. I also think there's a tremendous opportunity to collaborate around important issues. One of the things we're looking at is a potential project of expanding some of the Ardennes stuff that's already going on in Maine, maybe trying to turn that into a New England-wide project. And I really believe that by demonstrating that we can sort of at a grassroots level solve some of the problems that amateur radio is facing and make the hobby better, that's the very best way to bring those things into the ARL and get them to be common across the whole United States. There's also a lot of other groups in other areas of the United States involved in the ARL that are doing some of these things, and I hope to use that pipeline to bring some of those ideas and activities back. You know, basically what I'm hoping to do, I guess, in a nutshell, is kind of, you know, do some of the sort of things we've been successful here through all of you across all of New England. I mean, that's the goal.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Fred, Jose, KB1OC, do you have a quick comment? We just got back from Baxter State Park yesterday. My daughter hiked up all the way to the top. And there are a lot of parents that were worried about you could see they were worried about when their kids are going to come back. And,
yep.
Of course, we didn't have that worry because I gave my daughter a radio, and she's not even a ham. I gave, here's the nearest frequency. You call us. And she called us 3.5 miles out. She called us about 2 miles out, you know, perfect copy. And we knew exactly where she was. So I don't know, maybe there's something that we can instill to parents and kids that are doing stuff like that, so the parents and they'll be in contact with each other. You just have to come up with that idea as to how to promote that. But I thought that's what I was seeing.
You know, I'm going to remember this. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is appoint, assuming we're successful with a director run, is appoint a whole bunch of assistant directors that are going to focus on individual topics. And the one that you just brought up, which is kind of you know, it's not really formal emergency preparedness, but it's the kind of thing that actually a lot of younger people that might be considering ham radios would find very valuable. That 13-year-old extra and her dad got into amateur radio for exactly that scenario. So, you know, one of the things I'm going to be looking for, and I'm trying to make a list as we make our way around all these clubs of people who might be interested in helping, is folks that have good ideas and are willing to work across the New England region and ultimately across the ARL to help me make some of these things happen on a broader basis. I think amateur radio changes lives. It changed my life. I would probably be working on a dairy farm with a pitchfork in my hands every day if it had not been for an uncle who instilled in me an interest in the amateur radio hobby and electronics and wireless. It changed my life. And, you know, one of the things that we can do with amateur radio is we can change lives. And, you know, if you only change one, it's well worth the effort. It really is. So hold on to that idea. I'm going to remember that.
Thanks.
Yep. Anybody else have anything before we run out of time? Well, if not, folks, thank you very much. I hope you found something that was helpful, and at a minimum that you had some fun with all this. And
thank you, Fred. I appreciate it.
Go out and mentor somebody. You'll make a difference. You really will.
Thank you, Fred.
We appreciate you being here, all the work you've done, and
thanks, Fred.
We look forward to hearing from you more soon.
Alrighty, great.
Everyone, don't forget to fill out the survey on how you think this went, and let us know. Thank you very much.
73, everybody. See you at field day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.